And welcome to another edition of Islamic Finance Weekly on Web TV powered by Persian. Recently, His Royal Highness Mohammed Sanusi II CON, in an interactive section anchored by Mrs. Ajara Adeola, CEO Lotus Capital Limited, gave his perspective on the opportunities and challenges facing the growth of Islamic finance in Nigeria.
We must say, when you go back when we started and all the controversy and all the challenges of just licensing an Islamic bank, one of the most important points which I made in my speech is that we've come to a point where Nigerians have come around to accepting that this is just alternative finance. It's not an attempt to Islamize the country. And while for our foreign guests this may look strange, the truth is in Nigeria, every single element that has a religious tag becomes a peg around which you have all sorts of identity politics and mischief. So it's great, I think, that we've moved to that point where there's a general acceptance of the products that the federal government. One of the experiences I had was when we had this Committee on Alternative Finance. We submitted this report in 2014. The federal government could not issue a sukuk because of the fear of all the controversy that would raise. It took 5 years after that before the first sukuk was issued. But now everyone has seen the benefit. I think for me and it's not just in Nigeria, globally, one of the things we need to do is recognize that Islamic finance is not just non-interest finance. And the more we recognize it in its broad ethical implications and look at how Islamic finance addresses the concerns we have in the developing world in a very fundamental way, the more likely we are to increase acceptance and increase the proliferation of these products. So I'll give you an example. Take the sukuk. There's a lot of controversy over whether the returns on sukuk are actually non-interest or if they represent some form of jurisprudential technique to go around the letter or the substance of interest. But beyond interest, you've got the Ministry of Finance here. What are our concerns in Nigeria? Today, the Nigerian government is spending 50-60% of its revenue on debt service. Why do we have that? A lot of the debt issued by the Nigerian government, treasury bills, bonds, has been money taken sometimes very long term and basically spent on consumption, overheads, salaries, and not tied to any specific projects. So we've been borrowing for the last 10-15 years and saddling the next generation with the task of paying the debt, and we cannot see where the money went. The sukuk that have been issued, just these 2 tranches, 100 billion, Nigerians can see exactly where their money is going. They can see the projects that are being built by the sukuk. That's one. We've had years where the government has capital projects, budgets are provided for, the projects never happen because of something called a lack of cash backing. Sukuk makes sure that you have cash backing for the project. We've had concerns over the viability of projects, the relevance of projects, and also the transparency in valuation of projects. With the sukuk, you deal with things like inflated contracts, make sure you don't have them. You deal with things like the viability of projects. You no longer build a road from nowhere to nowhere. You have to explain exactly how that road is going to contribute. So all the concerns we've had about capital project conception, implementation, financing, and the ethical norms around that are addressed by Islamic finance. And the more we emphasize the ethical and responsible nature of Islamic finance beyond interest, the more we get an acceptance. This is, I think, what we haven't done enough of globally and in Nigeria, and this is what I think we need to do more of.
Consider the challenge of about 40 million unbanked people in Nigeria. His Royal Highness shared how the non-interest finance can deepen financial inclusion.
We're fortunate in this country and in most of Africa that we've got a very high level of penetration of the mobile phone. And I think for Nigeria today, using fintech and using mobile financial services is a major area of growth. Now, how do you design Islamic finance products that encourage savings and also provide loans or equity finance? And how do you deliver them using the mobile phone? This is something that I think we need to apply our minds to. There's very high level of penetration of the mobile phones. You have them in rural areas. You've got all the large mobile operators, MTN, Glo, Airtel, and so on. I think we've not done enough, even in terms of delivering conventional financial products. When you look at countries like Kenya, when you look at countries like Tanzania, when you look at even new and emerging dispensations like Rwanda, you begin to wonder why we haven't gone far. Now, I take part responsibility for this because when I was governor of the central bank, I insisted on having a bank-led model for mobile phones. I had this debate with many people. We're just coming out of financial. I think I had a debate with you as well. We're just coming out of a financial crisis. I believe the Central Bank of Nigeria is at this moment reviewing that model. We have seen that Ghana recently moved away from a bank-led to a telco-led model, and we've seen rapid growth in financial inclusion and financial services in Ghana. If you look at the Ghanaian growth in GDP in the last few quarters, the most rapid growth has been in the telecom sector, and a lot of it is really financial services. So I think unlocking that would be one of the quickest ways. And of course, we need to standardize these products. We need to commodify them. Then we need to create an awareness of these products across the board.
It differentiated between risk sharing and conventional finance, going to one equity-based contrast to debt contrast, which will be more appealing to SME sector.
If we have the technical skills for risk sharing and for equity finance, we actually do protect capital and grow it. Again, a lot of this goes back to finance, and I'll give you an example. Okay, we're in Kano working on reforms of Muslim law. We've just codified Muslim family law. Now, I told the committee, after this, we need to codify Muslim commercial law. If you talk to the average person in Kano who's gone through a madrasa or a school or studied Islamic fiqh, even informally with a scholar, he understands what is mudaraba. At least in Maliki it's called qiraat. He understands qiraat. He understands musharaka. He understands murabaha. He understands tawliya and so on. He understands everything to do with guarantees and what's, but he simply does not see the connection between what he's reading in these texts and what happens in the economy. And so sometimes it's about bridging a language gap. Explain to him that, look, what you read in this book of fiqh, this is how you conduct a transaction. Okay, this is what is ijara, this is what is murabaha and so on. And having that bridge so that he understands that what is being offered in a modern financial economy is simply what he has studied as Muslim jurisprudence. It's a big move for him. And I think we haven't done enough of that. Many people still do not see the connection between the products being offered by financial institutions and what they have studied in traditional jurisprudence. So communication is extremely important. And once they understand that, it becomes very easy for them to accept it and for them to hold on to it. And I think the Islamic banks themselves need to understand that for you to work properly and to market Islamic banking products, you need to have not just a knowledge of finance, but at least the basic rudimentary knowledge of Islamic jurisprudence. So it's about education on both sides and improving communication.
Indeed, Islamic finance has the potential to support Nigeria's socio-economic growth and infrastructural revolution. And that will be all for today's edition of this program. You can send questions and comments to news@quotientd.com and reporter@quotientd.com. Also, you can engage us on our social media handles displaying on the screen. Many thanks for watching, and bye for now.